Good night and welcome to Uncut on Channel 7. I'm Jules Vasquez. I'm here with my special guest tonight, Dr. Fernando Cuellar. I say special guest because these doctors are usually so busy during the day, but not so busy right now, Doc, because of the decline, the continued decline in new COVID cases. So you have a night off and you spent it with us.
Actually, good night. Good night, everybody. And of course, thanks for the invitation, to having me here tonight. I feel like I'm amongst royalty, journalistic royalty. So that makes me feel special.
I appreciate it.
And I actually don't have a night off. As you notice, I'm dressed in my after office hours scrubs, though. So I'm on call. They know that I'm here for the next 40, 45 minutes, and unless it's a really life and death thing, then they'll get in touch with me, But yes, around this time, I'm usually chilling out and just relaxing, winding down.
But so you have noticed that you aren't as hellishly engaged with life or death cases as you were in November and December?
Yes, Jules, absolutely. We definitely palpate, we see the numbers, we see the downward trend of the total COVID cases, of positive cases. We see less hospitalization, maybe over the past 2 months. I haven't had a hospitalized patient perhaps for the past 3 weeks, 2 weeks. So we are indeed in the private setting, and I know because of my close contacts with the public that we are seeing numbers, which brings me to that very common question that I get every day. Are the numbers real?
Right.
There's a lot of skepticism. Sometimes there's some mischief. Sometimes there's genuine concern that maybe the numbers are being cooked and the numbers are being played with. But I can tell you...
Are they?
No, they're not. They're not. Like I said, I know the people who work in the ministry, and they would never do such a thing. And I feel it on the ground.
Right.
I feel it on the ground, that the numbers are coming down.
So while it is a community effort, certainly, and once people are dying, there is no one should celebrate or take a victory lap. But who gets the credit for bringing the numbers down? Is it the community, or is it the steps taken by the Ministry of Health and Wellness to have more aggressive testing, or is it the curfew? What accounts for it?
Well, it's both actually, Jules. I'm going to do my best to not appear to be sitting on the fence, but I am the type of person who always want to give the community the kudos first, the credit. And perhaps in the middle, the community, the medical health workers, perhaps the technocrats at the Ministry of Health. Remember, the technocrats, the people who actually do the work, and perhaps leave the politician to last in terms of getting credit. So definitely the community should be applauded. Of course, they need to be pushed a lot, and the restrictions have to be talked about, but by and large, I think the community does deserve some credit.
How much of a galvanizing effect on the community do you believe it had when the twin doctors died on that terrible weekend?
I think it really was felt in the whole country that 2 young doctors died. I wouldn't, as I had heard somebody asking the other day if that was the single most important factor where everything turned. I think it was just the accumulation of different events that had led people to realize how bad we were.
You praise the technocrats. How does it make you feel to know that the person who was the leading technocrat up until the first week of December showed up to work this week, no vehicle, no office, no job, basically?
Yeah,
Dr. Manzanero.
It's disappointing that it was handled the way it has been handled. I'm pretty much sure that I expected different, whatever the justification they're going to use, but if the reporting is accurate, which I think it is, there was no discussion with Dr. Manza, at least to tell him why I think we are do this way. And so that would be my answer to that. And unfortunately, it's becoming and has become one distraction, because we should still be laser focused on dealing with things regarding COVID, no? We still should not feel like we have won the war, maybe a little battle, yes, but we still have a long way to go. So anything that's like this would just distract people from the main message, which is the same, no? The face mask and the physical distancing and the washing of hands.
Are you currently on any ministerial level or public policy level advisory or experts group?
No, I was invited, I joined. I was there for 6 or 7 weeks, and I quietly let myself out. And that's the type of person I am, no? That I am very, very keen that unfortunately the politicians end up doing what they want to do many times. So in spite of good advice, they still do many things that is outside of the advice of these groups. So
Is there a single event that you can say tipped you in terms of making decision that, okay, same thing, one more, just another version?
Yeah. Well, the first one that I was invited to when I joined, and as you know, I was very vocal in October, November, with the way we were going. And when I was invited, basically was challenged to say, well, put your mouth and shut your mouth and call help do the work, no? So I joined the first medical response team. I attended quite a few meetings. I realized that their line of thinking and the practices they were doing was alongside mine, and there were enough brain power in there to continue with that group. And the other one that I was part of, which was the vaccination group, again, very brilliant minds in Belize, very knowledgeable people who do a lot of work. But I was getting feedback that at the end of the day, the politicians will do what they want, no? So I didn't have time to waste in that sense.
The Prime Minister announced last night that he's taking advice from his wife, the special envoy, and that teachers should get vaccinated. Is this something that the group of experts
Of course,
recommended?
I mean, I said it just now, we have brilliant people, we have knowledgeable people, we have people that do all of the researches, who, which vaccines to get, from where, at what price, what are the side effects, what are the pros, what are the cons. I tell you, Mabel, they research it to the normal, and at the end of the day, they make a list. Like, for example, we started, just like the whole world was doing, the healthcare workers, the over 60 people, those with comorbidities, and then the discussion just leading up to quarrel amongst the groups, say, well, where we going to put the police, and where we going to put the teacher, and where we going to put the BDF? And these were part of vivid discussions. And for example, it was saying, well, they have a lot of teachers who have comorbidities, that will enter into that, and there's a place in that. And that is what I fear, no? That in spite of the very sound advice, everybody, the expert, and everybody know would want to give an opinion, and at the end of the day, the politicians will do what they want, no?
So you're saying that has happened in this instant case, that the will of the politicians has preempted or overtaken the advice of the experts, in some regards at least?
In some regards, perhaps, because, I mean, it would have been said differently. I'd say, you know what, in spite of us getting advice from somebody, I will turn it over to my technical group,
right,
to make that final thing. And I hope that's what prevails at the end of the day.
Speak to me about teachers, though. Let's be very clear on this. Should teachers be, because what the Prime Minister is saying is that, or my understanding is that the vaccines they hope to source from India would be set aside for teachers, because we have another public health emergency, which is children out of school. And that, you know, if we give teachers that, we can put them back in the classroom. Of course, what happens with the children is another concern, because then the teachers will be vaccinated.
Jules,
What
these
happens
things
with
are
the kids?
discussed at these technical groups. Just like you're asking, the question is posed amongst the group,
Right.
and they come up with the consensus. So it's not just one person's opinion, but the group of minds sitting down and say, you know what, these are the pros and cons of vaccinating the teachers before the policemen, for example. So those questions are addressed, those issues are addressed by these groups. And I tell you that these people do some research, because I've been part of it, no? To make informed decisions and get best advice. So my advice to the politicians: follow follow the technical people.
But you are no longer one of those
No,
technical people, because you felt they weren't following.
Exactly. I feel that way, and my practice is very busy. So
You don't got time for waste.
I don't got time for waste.
Is there a specific sort of directive you felt was not being followed?
No, no specific. And I don't have no real proof of decision making otherwise. But I know, you know how Belize is small, so I know, and by experience, I've been in this line of work for almost 30 years, so I know exactly, unfortunately, how things end up happening. No?
And how things end up happening, oftentimes, Doc, is with friends and family involved, and enterprise starts to come up. How does it, you are a veteran of many psychic and medical wards, how does it make you feel when you see that the KHMH, the board, has on the minister's first cousin, his father-in-law, an ex-officio member who is also related into that same family, knowing that the KHMH is really the backbone of this entire crumbling public health system that has been left to atrophy for years?
Yeah, I think I can speak on the point of authority, because you remember I was at KHMH as the chief of staff for many years. In the first, and I remember when the act was being developed and the way how the board should have been constituted, it needed to include a cross-section of the community. And for example, we needed a business person, we needed a medical representative, we needed a legal person. We needed those things to represent the whole entire cross-section of the community to manage the Carl Houston. And if the people who have been appointed does not fit that thing, then obviously it's not in the best interest of the hospital. No?
But you're speaking in general terms. I'm saying in this instant case, right? We're dealing with a situation. Isn't a board supposed to be constituted of persons like yourself? And
not like myself, Jules, because I represent a specific
yes, but
private
I mean people
hospital.
with experience in the public health care system.
Of course.
And while I could never take away anything from Dr. Hoy, he's an ophthalmologist, and we know that KHMH is a national referral center. I'm saying that how seriously can we take the overall public health effort when we see at this level where, you know, one of the issues, and I quoting from the manifesto again, to facilitate about the KHMH, the PUP manifesto, facilitating the improvement of KHMH's organizational leadership.
And your question specifically is for me to comment on the appointments of the board members?
I'm saying, how does it, what type of people should be on the board, and are the people who are currently designated for the board, will they provide that type of organizational leadership?
I'm not sure, Jules. My thinking is no, actually. And if I don't want the dodgy question, because I know you want to pin me down on that question, but I don't want dodgy question. And if what you're trying to say is that the minister's cousin is on it and the cousin's father-in-law, you said Dr. Hoy, and I respect that. He's a good friend of mine. He has capacity. The cousin is being regarded as a, I think the word used is a successful businessman.
Yes.
I personally don't know his successes. So he has to, or they have to prove themselves. Huh?
But I keen on this not because of the personalities. I don't care anything about that. But I'm saying that we know, and you far better than I, but I am a observer of the public health care system, and I know that for many years it has been run for the enrichment and the enterprise of people, the hustle on pharmaceuticals, all this sort of thing. When people voted, you hope that that would stop, because we know that that is undermining the public health care system. We know that is why KHMH is still, in my mind, has not advanced very much further than it was at when it was opened in the mid-90s,
Right.
from a technological perspective. That's my perception. I am saying that when will it end that people actually say, okay, healthcare is about curing people, and it's not about all this enterprise that develops around hustling pharmaceuticals and that sort of thing. I'm not saying that's happening
Yeah.
now. I don't have proof of that, but I'm saying that this is the kind of thing.
Well, let me
that
remind you,
happens.
I think I've seen this movie at least 2 times already now. I can remember back in 2008 when the UDP won,
Right?
and I was on board in their message, and things will change, and one of my colleagues was made the chairman of the board, and 2, 3, 4, 5 years after, we realized big hustle happened, no? Through
Right.
the pharmaceuticals and supply. Very disappointing. And I think it will take, for example, the staff of the Carl Huchner because that's where the power is, in the staff, no?
Right.
To say, you know what, we are not in agreement with how the board is being constructed. And that is what overall I think Belizeans should realize. It's the common people that has the power, not the politicians. I knew, for example, when I was at Carl Huchner, I had quite a bit of power over, over the board. And I would have threatened them anytime and said, you know what, if we feel like we went on strike tomorrow, and we had that clout over them, I had a resignation letter already filled out. Just the date was left empty. And I used to threaten Dr. Rosado and
You're
say,
a serious man.
they send me resignation, I just need for filling the date. And I'm reasonable. I mean, I know that the politicians have agendas to
Right.
compete, and I used to work with them, but not to a certain point, okay? But I think it's left up to the management and staff of Carl Huchner to rectify that, no?
We'll go to break very shortly, but one quick question to wrap up this subject. Should the KHMH be sourcing its own pharmaceutical supplies? I don't know, does your hospital do it?
Yes.
Does BMA do it?
Yes.
Should they be doing that? Or is it that the system is set up with middlemen so that there is this hustleocracy?
No. Do I answer now or after the break?
Answer now.
Okay. It should, because this whole thing with the KHMH was part of the health reform thing, no?
Right.
Many years ago, we spent millions of dollars for consultancy to come in and say, how best to run our country in healthcare delivery. And definitely, one big part of that was to set up authorities, okay? Because it was shown that through the public service, the bureaucracy, you couldn't get anything done much. So by giving Carl Huchner semi-autonomy, then you had that capacity to hire and fire, so to speak, run your own thing. And this model, through Carl Huchner, should have by now extended to the regions. Each region by now should have had their own authority and autonomy to say, you know what, it's not the same managing people in Orange Rock and Corozal as in Punta Gorda and stuff. Everybody have their own peculiarities, but by now, the rollout should have been already each region, having their own authority. So the quick answer to your question, yes, it's a better model than the old traditional public service, and when done properly, above board, then you should have had better yields in the delivery of healthcare in Carl Huchner.
But nobody's interested in autonomy because it cuts the hustle. My conclusion, not yours. We'll take a quick commercial break here on Uncut. We'll be back shortly. Thanks.
Price Premier Products Limited has been proudly serving Belize for many years. We aim to serve you better and are pleased to announce our new office with convenient parking at number 1728 Chetamal Street, Belize City. Here, you will find our Price Smart outlet opening on weekdays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Be impressed with the variety of quality branded products such as Pampers, Always, Tide and Downy, Del Monte, DAC, Vigo and Alessi, Duracell, Crystal Farm Cheese, Linda Powdered Milk, Great Lakes Pork Tails, Ground Coffee, Authentic Gillette for men and women. We distribute many of the world's top and finest brands to supermarkets and stores nationwide. For authentic brands and quality products, visit us today. Price Premier Products Limited, importer and distributor of fine quality products.
Welcome back to Uncut on Channel 7. We're here with our guest, Dr. Fernando Cuellar. Doc, picking up where we left off, as we respond, as we gear this national public-private response to COVID, from the public perspective, from your observation, do you feel that the priority is preparedness and response, or is it to some extent enterprise? We know that the two things have been working hand in hand for years, but the sufficiency of the response suffers once you're working in service to enterprise.
Right. Well, the answer to that is the former, what you said, no? The priority should be preparedness and response. Sensitization, continued sensitization of the community. As I said earlier, the community has to take, or should take the credit for the numbers trending downwards. They should also be told, made aware that it's not over as yet. No, we should not let down our guards. No, we should still remember the basic public health measures that's been drilled at us over and over. I think you introduced this discussion tonight as me to answer if there'll be a third wave, and the answer is yes, there'll be a third, a fourth, a fifth. But I hope that it's like what the weather people said, no? Like choppy to choppy, instead of tsunamis and tidal waves. No? Because once we have the little waves, our health system will be able to absorb, take care of the sick and very sick, as opposed to what was happening, that we were being overwhelmed.
You are the person who sounded the alarm last time that the public health care system was at critical risk of being overwhelmed,
right.
And you predicted very presciently that people would be dying in the parking lot.
Right.
And it did happen. Do you still have that anxiety about what the kind of havoc that COVID can wreak, knowing that an election will be here in 2 weeks?
Well, I don't think I have the anxiety about it. I have a concern because definitely we saw our elections in November having an effect on the numbers of COVID, and that's not debatable, no? Definitely elections had an effect on the numbers. The political parties would want you to think different.
Well,
they would say
continues to maintain that's
no,
not the case.
But I beg to differ. I beg to differ. As a matter of fact, as I am reflecting right now, the people who ran the elections, they did a fantastic job. No, you went into that room, everything was order, you were physically distanced in the line, everything. So the actual technocrats that ran the election were fine. It's the campaigning and the political parties that contributed adversely to the numbers. This time around, as you well know, we have a municipal, which should be a smaller scale kind of operation. And I hope that there is some, and maybe it's not proper for me to say, that there's a little bit more of fatigue when it comes to politics and elections, and we don't have the same energy that we saw back in November. And I hope that the political parties have learned from their experiences back then, and to be even more interested in doing things the proper way, no? So as
Do you
to
think
not
they
have,
failed to grasp the seriousness of it? 6 PUP elected representatives became ill.
no. I know the politicians don't fool. They well I know, but I guess it's.
No, they failed at that time. To
Oh
grasp.
yes, oh yes.
I know they grasp it now. One has died.
Well, they grasped it immediately. They know both sides grasp it that that trouble was there. But again, like the good politician, they don't acknowledge that they contributed adversely.
Right,
No?
because the Minister of Health and Wellness is clinging to his version of events that the election was not the super spreader that drove that incredible spike in November and
And they want to use
December.
any fancy words, but I contributed to it, the increase in numbers.
Right.
Okay, super spreaders left that to the US and nobody for said anything. You know?
We don't have
We don't
population
have
for that.
population and no super
Fair
spreaders.
enough, fair enough. And we know that also 2 city councillors got COVID after, we can't say correlation is not causation, but we know that 2 city councillors contracted COVID within weeks of the PUP having its convention to select its councillor candidate.
Any event where we include a bunch of people, okay? Like, for example, they showed me a video of Old Belize this Sunday. When that beach, I mean, like, big party, there were a lot of people. I sure that out of that, once the exposure happens, 2 weeks after, we can get the sick people and hospitalization. So be it for politics, be it for elections, be it for party, be it anything right now where entail coming together people want contribute to higher numbers. So that's why we should still have that amount of restrictions in terms of gatherings and so forth.
Do you feel that people are sick with COVID but not going out for tests? They're staying at home and riding it out?
From the very beginning, Jules, people were afraid to get tested. People were afraid to get hospital. I think the stigma is less now than before, but definitely people are still not going and getting tested as they should.
The infographics, they changed in December with the new government, and every government has its own style, but do you feel that the change in the infographic, my feeling is that it kind of dehumanized the immediacy of it, breaking it into multiple tables, multiple tablets, and one did not feel like you had to search it more to find where people died. You didn't know the age of the people that died. So, and we see it on the screen right now. I feel that those infographics, the design of them, and the density of information has sort of dulled the impact of the numbers. Yes, the numbers have declined simultaneously, but I feel that not knowing the ages and not knowing exactly which village they come from, or that sort of thing, has had a type of effect of taking us off the highest alert. What's your feeling about it?
I think the different models that have been used so far with infographics is confusing to the ordinary person.
Right. Okay.
So I think it should be better simplified. And those pundits like yourself and the intellects should have one pathway to access exactly what you want. So if you want to know what it looked like last week, you could go up on the Ministry of Health webpage and say, you know what, let me see what ages died, how many were hospitalized, but the everyday infographics should be much simpler, okay? Maybe 4 different parameters we use, no? How much positive case we have. I like positivity rate. Maybe a lot of the ordinary person know the positivity rate and so forth. I used to criticize Mansa directly, indirectly for him. They ask the expert every day. I say, my boy, you got better work to do. You assign that to somebody else, right? And I tried to give Mansa both personally in meetings and so different advices and recommendations. And indeed, I felt that he did not take heed of many people, no? Decentralization of the testing, for example, increase in rapid testing, contact tracing, hiring people. All of these things could have been done. And
You felt it was too hierarchical?
exactly.
Yeah.
I think things could have been done differently, okay? And this are no hindsight or Monday morning quarterback, okay? This was happening back then, okay? This was happening, we need to do things differently. We suggest things that should be done differently. And it worked, it wasn't.
So then you agree, I mean, certainly not with the method because we know the public service has its rules, but fundamentally you agree that we needed a change from Dr. Manza.
We needed a change in the way how things were being done.
Okay.
Okay? I don't want to get into personalities and it should be good. And let me state again, the way how this is being handled is disappointing, no? It definitely should be handled differently, you know? Got some respect for the man and say, listen, boy, I think that we have one different, and if you agree or tell me why you disagree and so forth, and if we can't say eye to eye, then we have to figure out how we do this thing out.
You said that we should have 2 layers of information, a public one and another one for deep dives or drill down. But there is no one heading the epidemiology unit right now.
I'm not sure.
I am.
Who used to be the head? No, Manzanero, Russell?
Russell Manzanero.
He's not there again?
I am told he is sent on one of these 3-month transfers. That's my reliable information.
Well, I didn't know
you know
that.
There are a lot of these 3-month transfers going around.
When I was part of the thing, we used to get a lot of support from Ms. Perez, who gives the information. And that's the thing, a lot of decisions is based on data. Okay?
Exactly.
It's based on data and science. I know where Cuellar feel, I know where X feel or Y feel, what was our data from last week, and then we respond to that.
Of course. But
Okay.
have you seen that? Do you have that data? I don't.
Yes.
You do have it?
Yes. Well, me right now, no, but that was presented at the group by Ms. Perez, who is the surveillance person, I think that's her
Right,
title, no?
okay.
And she would have, you ask she for, okay, where Orange Rock, they happened Orange Rock last week, and she'll be able to give you that data.
But it should be a cause of some concern that the epidemiology, the epi unit, has no active, the head is not there.
Of course. Disaster.
Especially at a time like this, one would think. So, Doc, let me ask you, you have been in the trenches with COVID-19.
I'm still in the trenches.
You're still in the trenches, and those trenches may then show out a little bit, but they may get deeper again. Are you going to vote in the upcoming March 3rd election?
Of course.
And even with the COVID scare, right?
Of course.
You'll take your measures and vote.
Yes, because like I said again, the running of the election was, in my mind,
It's the
very
after
satisfying.
party that kills.
It's the before party and the after party.
I see.
Okay.
Now, what from your experience with COVID-19, there has been all kind of heartbreak, and you know that as all over the world, people often die alone, isolated from their families. What is the most riveting or heartbreaking story that you have come across in that time?
Well, I didn't come across it personal, but I think when that child died, there was a child who died,
Right.
and that was inhumane. That was inhumane, no? That for that child to have died basically without the parents, no? Apart from that, I take every death, every passing sad and heartbreaking. I've had a couple of patients who have taken care, who have ended up passing away. My story, my personal story is that I have been thankfully well all this time, but I have tested positive for antibodies. So, yes.
So you had COVID?
I had COVID without even knowing it. And I had to have it, and I said, listen, for the hundreds or maybe thousands of people I've seen, I must have been infected at some point, and I did my antibodies about a month ago, and I showed positive. So I am positive for COVID without even realizing it.
So you didn't have any symptoms?
I didn't have any symptoms, and I tried to take what they call prophylactic treatment with ivermectin and all the vitamins and so forth, and taking care of myself, and I'm positive, which I hope we have 5 minutes to talk about vaccines.
Please do.
Okay.
Vaccines are the most pressing issue right now in terms of what the public expects, and we know there are people with all this concern and apprehension about what the vaccine will do to you. What is the main issue of public conversation that we should be having about vaccines today?
Well, the main and the biggest hurdle I think we should get over that vaccines are safe, are relatively safe. Okay, everything has its potential risk. Something as simple as Tylenol, oxygen could hurt you. Okay, believe it or not. So there are some adverse reactions to vaccines. But all in all, it's safe, it's effective, and I would encourage, ask, plead, tell every Belizean to seek their vaccinations when the time comes. I want to vaccinate myself, for sure. I'll be the first one to stand up in that line. Be it AstraZeneca, be it the Sputnik 5, okay?
So you would take Sputnik as well?
Yes, yes, definitely. Or the other one, no, the Moderna, no? I would take any of the three that has been approved. Well, the Sputnik hasn't been approved, but the Johnson & Johnson and all the three that have been approved for use, no? And that's because I have tested positive for antibodies.
I have a mother who is very old, and obviously she's very vulnerable. But I'm saying that I would perhaps think twice about her getting it, because I know that it can create symptoms.
Right.
And at her age, symptoms and her condition, very frail, I fear that the symptoms could take her down. What would be your response to
I think
people
that's a
who go through
genuine
that?
concern, and I appreciate people analyzing the pros and cons. But at the end of the day, I think your mother will benefit from getting the vaccine. Okay?
So older person.
Because the vaccine might not stop you from getting infected, you know. What it will do is stopping you from getting very sick, or stopping or lowering the number of deaths. So it might not be as 100% effective for you getting the COVID, but you're not supposed to get that ill because you don't have an immune memory that you for fight the infection from the get-go.
Order of priority for vaccines?
Order as in populations,
Yeah.
healthcare workers,
Number one.
okay. 2, elderly, above 60. 3, people with comorbidities. And along that layer, you could put in the other frontline, including policemen and BDF and coastal and teachers and so forth. Okay.
And media.
You have to make a thing about that one day.
Indeed.
I see the fellows behind the cameras and look for me because they're not media too, no?
Indeed, of course. So, Doc, as we wind down here, what would be your message today to the public right now in terms of keeping up the vigilance? Because we know people are becoming more relaxed. We know we have an election coming up. We know that it's just the nature of the social animal in us, that we want to go out there and be free from all these restrictions.
Well, again, I heard the other day a couple colleagues saying that the way out of this is through vaccination. And that kind of made me shudder a little bit because it gave the impression that once we vaccinate, we're going to clear. And that's not the case, though. We still have to make up our mind that this virus, this severe virus, one day will maybe up to another year. Okay, so we still have to use the basic things, the masks, the physical distance, the hand washing, the limitation, and we have to still continue that sacrifice until we really get that herd immunity, which will give us another layer of protection against the COVID. So please, Belizeans, don't think everything is ripe and beautiful because you're turned wrong and we could be in trouble again. Mind you, our health system is a little bit more prepared to deal with bigger numbers, but that don't mean we're going on crazy and make the numbers go up much, no?
We hear so much talk about the South African strain, about the Brazilian strain, the UK strain. We had some kind of strain, or have some kind of strain happening in Corozal and Orange Walk.
The north. Yeah, we noticed that from early that people who were getting sick in the north were getting more sick. And we couldn't prove it because we not do the genotype testing that we should, no? And by the way, they strains don't name them again. They have names, no? So people people get offended when they talk about UK and South African, and God forbid they go on Belizean strain
Indeed, there could be. All right. So we want to say thanks so much to Dr. Fernando Cuellar for coming on, for taking some of his rare free time and sharing it with us. This is Uncut. We'll be back after a break with one of the aspirants for PUP City Council and the man who topped the poll in the PUP convention. Can he do it in the real election? We'll ask Allan Pollard when we come back.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Full-Tech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Full-Tech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
Welcome back to Uncut. I'm Jules Vasquez. We're here with my second guest, one of the aspiring PUP city councillors, the man who topped the polls in his party's convention. Allan, did you top the polls in the election for the PUP? I don't think it was Candice.
Yeah, it was.
It was Dr. Candice
Dr.
Pitts.
Pitts, yes.
So, Allan, speak to me, Mr. Pollard, about, you say I know him so well personally over the years that I'm going by his first name, but Mr. Pollard, you can see both sides now, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You campaigned to, I mean, nobody thought you guys would win. You all were going against a UDP machine in 2018.
Correct.
But now the shoe is on the other foot. You're the incumbent, PUP government is in Belmopan. And people have rising expectations.
Of course.
Right? You're not the underdogs anymore.
Yeah, of course.
You're the overdogs, and people want to know where you got to eat. How are you handling this transition from being an underdog to the overdog?
Well, of course, it's definitely, with any transition, it's something that takes some getting used to. Of course, the campaign style is different from 2018.
Due to COVID?
Due to COVID, one, and of course, due to the fact that you are the incumbent. Last time, give me a run and see what we could do. Now, this time, now you're already in the position, why should I give you another chance?
Yeah, and
so,
how you never?
Yeah.
How you never, the one of the main things I get in my life in the news, how you never do this story, how you never do that story.
Yeah, exactly.
You get a version of that too.
Of
how
course.
You never do this to me.
Well, this is a large city, so we get plenty of those.
How you never?
And it's something whereby it just takes some getting used to, all right? And when we're campaigning, we just have to make sure that our message remains. While the style may be different, the path is the same. The destination is the same. We still want change. We still want development. That's something that you can't automatically get once you get into office, right? So that's not a one-term thing. It's not a 3-year thing. There's no deadline on transformation. There's no deadline on development.
But how do you answer the criticism that your council was like a council interrupted then because COVID came along,
of course,
changed everything, changed all the revenue forecasts, changed the entire reality of what you all wanted to do. And the criticism is, and I said it last week, the council is a failure. And it's not, you can put an asterisk beside it because you all failed to deliver on a lot of what you wanted to do. But you can legitimately say COVID came in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
That's the same thing that happened with the last UDP central government. They have that perhaps legitimate excuse.
Well, that's right, that we do have a legitimate excuse, but I would never say that this council was a failure. If you look into the manifesto...
Allan, you do 2 traffic lights and you're going against 3 traffic lights. I'm just saying it's like, and you're going against the Nigerian cartel that runs a $1 van and they beat you. Then it's still they charge $2. I'm saying it's not a spectacular, it hasn't been a spectacular run. How do you answer that criticism?
Well, you mentioned the lights. That's one thing. I mean, by which parameters we're using that, we have to ask that question. Your
but people
definition
want goods
of
and services.
People, of course, want goods and services. They, of course, want development. I think, and of course, they wanted change. And I think we've touched on each one of those items. You understand? In terms of change, the structure of how business was done in the council, the structure of how we operate with the council's finances, the structure of how we treat employees, especially in the city, the way how we manage the traffic in itself, how traffic was managed. And you talk about the lights. We've done 3 lights in 1 year, basically. That's something that is unprecedented. And while it may not be as grand as many may seem, I don't know, a subway in the middle of downtown, but it's something that is alleviating the congestion of the growing number of commuters in the city. And that's something that we should pride ourselves in as a council. However, though, we can't not mention what has happened to this council either. When arriving at the council, we were strapped for cash. Completely strapped. No matter how much big ideas you have, and especially me being a progressive, being the person who wants to see more for my city that I love so much, and put my project on the table and I tell a boy, we not got the cheese for do that. That's something that is very depressing. All right, and that's what the reality that we had to face coming into that office. And no make no ghost fool or Jules, there was nothing there. All right, and we did what we could in that time. And then that second tier was when we really tried to ramp up all the development and all of that. And then third year, well, the ending of second year and third year, we had COVID, and it was really survival mode then, trying to keep the ship afloat, trying to keep all our employees, trying to make sure that, nobody gets impacted by this. They have thousands of people, Belizeans, who have lost their jobs. We didn't have that at the council. You understand? So that's something that we have to pride ourselves in for too.
Yeah, so survival became a feat.
Survival definitely was something that it was beyond us. We had to man up, right? So.
But while you all were trying to survive administratively, out there, as you go there campaigning, you know that people are right now trying to survive as human beings.
Of course.
How do you answer those people who have so much needs and the central government isn't meeting it, or they feel you should meet it? These are people in desperate conditions.
I am well aware. And being a politician, we are the first responders, right? We are the people who get the bulk of the concerns, get the bulk of the upset. When they're upset, that we are the people on the counter directly. Before they even weigh the options, the first person they would have called an area representative, all right, he should get me out of this mess. And I understand, and that's something that even on the campaign trail now, it hurts me. I gone in Albert Division last week, and a lady was crying, like literally crying, literally like what, and it really broke my heart to see something like that. But that's the reality we face right now, Jules, and it's a pandemic, and the doctor was here just now, and he did tell her that we don't know when this thing was done, but the reality is that everyone is going through this, and we have to go through it together.
But nobody know I hear that, respectfully. In terms of people want you to solve their problems.
Yeah, definitely.
And you don't have, in the public mind, you don't have any excuses to lean on. PUP they in, PUP City Council they in. If you want them to vote for you, you have to ease their pain.
Yeah.
And I get the sense that it's not easy to do.
It's certainly not. And I don't want just to say that because I have a PUP, but I really feel for some of the ministers too. These are my colleagues, and I've spoken to a couple of them, even the Prime Minister. And when they tell you about the state that we're in right now and what all they have to do to try at least get us to a level where we could balance off and people could actually feel the love of the PUP, that was a serious fight, Jules, and not an easy one either, and certainly something where we can't fix in a matter of 2-3 months, right?
Does any of this give you cause for concern that the PUP may have a hard time winning in March because of this public state of desperation, and that you fail to meet their expectations? Perhaps a good and legitimate reason, but we may really think on a control for way.
Yeah, I understand why you would say something like that, but I have to make mention of how advanced our voters are. All right?
Okay.
Belizean voters they're in tune. They know. A lot of people have that misconception, all right? But people know they're in tune with the news, and they follow up the politics. They understand how politics work. So before I could even give my excuse, they already they show for their compassion, right? All right, Papa, I understand. We know that I know things bad right now. We're in a pandemic. With the wait for your representative, with the give and lead time, we know you are coming for way, you don't tell it, And sometimes nothing just take communication too, right? And that's the role of the area representative, that's the role of the politician, to meet the people, talk to the people, tell them what things bad right now, but we'll get there. You understand? And I think, and so far, and I could tell you that because I'm on the ground, as a matter of fact, I just come out of Lake before I come here, and we were on the streets campaigning, and we there back there, and Credit have about 6,000 people for service back there. You understand? And everybody want to see a thing. Yeah. But when you go talk to them right now and never tell her, I know the boss guy handful. We want to get through to the man, yes. We want certain things, but we have to give them boy a lead break. Them boy just get in.
It sounds impossible to deal with 6,000 people.
It sounds impossible, but they guys get it done. I don't know how. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's quite a challenge, Jules.
Speak about Queen Square. You eroded the UDP's chokehold on that division, which they've had stronghold on that division, which they've had since 1998. In terms of they've had it since 84,
Yeah.
but 1998 is the last time they had a serious threat. And as we know, Dickie Bradley in that election came within 40 votes. You did not come within 40 votes, but you eroded the lead in that division. I think they went down from a 81% or 79% margin of victory to probably low 50s,
Yeah.
50 plus percent. So you made a big stride in percentage points.
Correct.
Two things. One, you are now, or you were a standard bearer.
Still.
Why you are still a standard bearer? Why did you choose to continue to run in the city council when you can just say, well, hey, I have my national aspirations and I'm going to stay in Queen Square, like
Yeah.
municipal, then I step down.
I understand, and I've heard things like that. I've heard comments like that. But
Yeah.
when you deal with, for me personally, my personal experience, when I deal with people and the service people, it's never about, there's no levels, right? In my eyes, there's no tiers, all right? You know, when I wake up the morning as a councillor, I still have to dedicate my time to service people. You understand? Help people, go out people, check with people. And this is my platform why I get to do that. So even if there was an upset within the general elections, which there was, I have already made my mind up that, you know what, I still want to be in a position where I could serve. So there's no drop down or no demotion or, you know, it doesn't feel like that for me. It's just work, you know, it's just coming out and service at the end of the day.
You intend to stay, to remain in Queen Square.
Yes, I that's my division.
That's it. And you
That's my
feel
division.
that you can eventually win in there, this UDP stronghold unbroken.
Of course, of
Yes?
course, of course, of course.
You think Sister being run again?
I don't know. And I don't think so. Personally, I don't think so. I think she deserves a break, I believe. But I don't think she'll run again, of course. And the connection that I've made with the voters so far in that area is something that is unbelievable, and I can't even bring words to it. And I think that will make the loss hurt so bad because, you know, I've already rooted myself in there, and I've got this close connection to the people, and, you know, I could just walk through or drive through, and, you know, people are like, you know, the smallest of kids are like, you know, Allan Pollard, what's up, you know, like, that's something I just can't let go right now, you know. And for me, and I told this to my colleagues, and I've told this to multiple people, that the 2020 general elections isn't just about that election. It's about getting in this division, starting to work for these people, and eventually reach that destination of me becoming that area representative, me becoming the person that will represent these people in the House. So that the journey just continues, Jules. So it's not a situation where I'm discouraged or plan to give up because of one defeat. Plan to push on.
Your mayor has taken a few hits, Mr. Pollard, over the Nanchang episode and over the letter from JBW asking city council members to sign on. How do you feel about and I asked Bernard to come on, I'm waiting for a positive response, but how do you feel about his leadership and his ability to stay the course, because the tech can leave it a leak right now?
Yeah. Most politicians, you know, within their period of time, you know, they have that Iraqi period, and you have times where things not as glorious, things not every time that fun, right? And he's handling himself well, and he's, you know, of course, me personally, I can't comment on those events, or
But you must have a feeling about it, about
no personal feeling because I know him personally and I know the character, who he is, and I know him as a leader. And, you know, he's one of the best mayors Belize City has ever seen. He's responsible.
How you get there, though?
How you mean?
You really think he's one of the best mayors?
Yes,
like,
definitely.
Yeah?
Definitely.
What,
and
I don't feel that.
And that's personal opinion.
Yes, but I'm just saying his record, and yes, you could put the asterisk with COVID,
Yeah.
but I don't feel it has been a spectacular run.
I mean, he's not a career politician, and that's something that...
Well, he'll run for his second term now.
Yes,
so.
exactly. But I mean, like all of us, you know, we're just getting in there, we're just getting the hang of things, and him too, he's no exception to that rule. He's as green as me, you understand? But seeing him in that seat, seeing him in the office, and, you know, I personally witnessed, you know, some of his trials, some of the things he had to face in office, and how he handled himself, you know, is something that, for me, is spectacular and honorable, you understand? So, and like anything, like I said, with any politician, you always have, you know, something where I come up where, you know, kind of feel like it did really or something like that. But I think he's handling himself well, and given a next term, I think sky's the limit for the mayor. I personally don't think that we've seen the best of Mayor Bernard Wagner. I
share your optimism because I don't want to think we've seen the best of it. The man must could do better. I'll come back to that. But Allan, let me ask you, what is the future for politicians in this country? I see them giving me the signal. Allan, what is the future for politicians in this country in terms of representation? Do you think that the old concept of, you know, I put on a wayabera and I become a politician? Because, you know, I know that you are on the cutting edge of fashion and social media. But I'm just saying, will politicians have to up their game in the future in terms of self-representation, curated appearances on social media, curated engagements,
Definitely.
That sort of thing? Explain your view on that.
Definitely. I think the game is changing completely, you know. And you've seen it. You have older politicians and more seasoned politicians actually, they whip out of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram because they understand where the voters are. They understand that this generation, to capture their attention, you know, it has to be more than house-to-house campaign for them, right? At least to stay relevant. And I believe that now you're seeing younger candidates, you're seeing more creative candidates, you're seeing people who are bringing politics to a whole nother level, you understand? And people love that engagement, people love that personal touch, and it goes from Karim making fudge, Honorable Karim making fudge in his house on TikTok, all the way to your cooking segments with the Honorable Michael Finnegan. Right? So it's something that, you know, it's definitely evolving with time, and, you know, you find that politicians are trying to keep up. I bless because I born in that era, right? And I'm in this era, so I mean it's a easy adoption for me. But I'm kind of glad that the bar is raising in a way, you know.
You aren't serving on any boards. The PUP has appointed and named so many boards, and I haven't heard your name on any. Is it that you are like the luckless among us with no talent or low talent? No, but you know, it's a way to get involved in other activities. So I'll leave it a change.
I do serve on boards,
okay.
2 boards. I do serve on the BWS board and Sports Council. I'm on the Sports Council board.
How do you take the announcement today that all board allowances or payments to non-executive members will be cut by half?
Yeah, I was just told that today. I mean, you know, it
has to be a kind of letdown.
No, I mean, I have full understanding that, you know, we're in some rough times, and you have people that get cuts all over, and when you're up on the streets, as you notice people that get cut completely, cut from work, and I understand, I do understand completely, and as appointed people, as people in public life, you know, we sign up for this too, right? And we say we want to serve, so it's not about the stipend, but it's about service at the end of the day, and if we have to make that cut, then we have to sacrifice.
speak, if you can, a little about, I heard you on this podcast speaking about your education. You only have an associate's degree.
That is true.
In this day and age, a lot of, like me, I am just like you, but in this day and age, a lot of people feel that if you only have an associate's degree, you have this enormous glass ceiling above you. Do you feel that with the work you're doing and the reputation you're building, that you are disproving that you don't necessarily need a bachelor's or a master's to say, well, I have a value?
I do agree that we aren't, our talents aren't determined by our diplomas or degrees or certificates for that matter, but what you bring to the table at the end of the day, especially in politics, I think you could come with a high school diploma and you could be the best politician that Belize has ever seen. And that comes from a place that you can't get in a no classroom. And anybody, any seasoned politician could tell you that. All right? You have some people come with PhD and can't make it across the tape. But that's because you have to be genuine. You have to be serious about service. You have to want to serve people. You have to love people. And that is something school can't teach you. Of course, I don't knock school at all. I'm actually applying to school right now. I'm trying to further my education as well. For personal reasons, I do have a wealth of experience, and I do have what Belizeans would call the know-how, but I do want to learn more. I have that craving for new knowledge, and I think I would be better serving if I had more knowledge, so to speak.
Okay, and then finally, as we wrap up, what would be your expectation for March 3rd? Will you top the polls this time, Allan Pollard?
Will I top the polls? I'm not sure, man. That's up to the voters to decide.
But it means something, though.
It does not. To me, at least to me.
Come on, man.
For me, Jules, honestly speaking, and I know I take this no other way. For me, my focus right now is just for win. All right? Just for get in the back and for, carry on the goods and service of the people. For me, the minute it becomes about accolades or, personal statistics and anything, I think that then we start to stray from the actual meaning of why we're doing this, why we're here.
It becomes an ego thing.
It becomes an ego thing, and as early in my career, at 26 years old right now, I'm trying to stay as far from that as possible. So it's about people for me, it's about serving them, and accolades and anything that they never speak for yourself with time, but that's another the goal right now. And mind you, I just come off our defeat, so at least winning will feel good right now. Right?
Slump breaker. Okay, folks, that's it for our show tonight. I'm Jules Vasquez. This has been Uncut. We want to say thanks to our sponsors, Slingshot, for helping us with the partitions, McNabb Design, for the backdrop, Belize Medical Associates, Full Tech Systems, Price Premier Products, Naya Resort, McNabb Publishing, as I said. Thanks and to our guests, Dr. Fernando Cuellar, Councillor Allan Pollard, and we want to thank all of you all who tuned in tonight. And please join us back here next week as we go Uncut one more time.